military conflict. Before I begin, I would like to thank our president here at DMAC, Rob Denson, for supporting the lecture series. Also, Jim Stick, our dean, Matt Walsh, Matt, our co-director of the speaker series. Matt, you brought another fascinating individual to speak today. Today's speaker is Joe Torrillo, a New York City firefighter and first responder on September 11, 2001, during the terrorist attack on New York City. We're going to hold the applause for a moment, and we're going to play an introduction.
Was one of the most beautiful and pristine days that most New Yorkers had ever recalled. It appeared as if Michelangelo himself had chosen the perfect shade of blue from his palette in the sky.
Camera open in here if you want it.
The birds were chirping in unison as if they were welcoming the warm and bright morning sunshine and bidding farewell to the ending of summer. Then the unimaginable happened.
It appears that the fire and smoke enveloping a very popular building.
America was attacked by Islamic extremists in 4 attacks of terrorism in New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. As people from around the world were glued to their television sets,
So you have no idea right now.
Another one, another plane has hit. Right, oh my God, another plane has still hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Oh my God, it's right in the middle of the building.
rescuers were racing to the scenes in a desperate effort to save lives. By nightfall on that fateful day, 2,573 innocent Americans would lose their lives in the horrific carnage, and another 403 emergency service workers would sacrifice theirs in what is considered the greatest rescue effort ever undertaken. For the few actual survivors, they all have a compelling story to tell. Tales of irony, both happy and sad, still surround the images and sounds of horror witnessed in every corner of the earth in the days after the attacks. While every story seems to have a legitimate place in history, few can compare to the story of Lieutenant Joe Torrillo, a career firefighter with the New York City Fire Department. Joe's story, one that he has been asked to share around the globe, has been considered the most ironic and interesting story of all. Joe survived the collapse of not just one tower, but both. Buried 2 times in 1 hour under the debris of each tower with massive bodily injury, miraculously he was found and rescued twice. Listen to Joe as he reveals his amazing and heart-wrenching story of survival.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Can anybody hear me in the back?
Good morning.
Yeah. Am I loud enough back there?
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Before I begin, I want to welcome you all here to DMAC to hear my amazing story. After I'm done, I'm going to open up the floor to questions. Anybody has anything they want to ask me? Today's the time to do it. I'm not uptight about anybody asking me about my experience on September 11, 2001, but I know I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Joe Daniels and also Matt Walsh, who's not here someplace. He's back there, for making my appearance possible. And I accept this opportunity with a lot of gratitude, and I'm very humbled to meet such a great group of people. So without any further ado, I'm sorry, I gotta put my clicker on. Those words not me. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 weeks ago we commemorated the 22nd anniversary of the worst attack in recent memory on American soil, when we were attacked 4 times in 3 different locations, twice in New York City. 2 commercial jets struck each of the Twin Towers within 17 minutes of each other. Then a plane struck the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. and at 10:03 a.m. the passengers in the flight crew of United Airlines Flight 93 that departed Newark Airport in New Jersey on its way to San Francisco was overtaken, and they took the terrorist out of the cockpit, and the plane went down to a lonely field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. We lost 2,978 people that day, and a very couple survivors like me, and so many stories surround that day. There's some very, very happy stories about people who were supposed to be in the towers that day, but for some reason they weren't there because it was the first day of school. They took their kids to the first grade for the first time. And we were also voting for the new mayor in New York City. And then there are people who shouldn't have been there that were there because they came from a business meeting from the other side of the country. They ended up at a meeting at the famous restaurant called Windows on the World. So there's all these happy stories, sad stories. There's so many of them. I could talk about them forever and ever. My story is just one of many. And I'm going to share my story with you today. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, where I came from. I came from a rough, tough Italian neighborhood. I tell people there were 3 kinds of people in my neighborhood: gangsters, and people that wanted to be gangsters, and people who thought they were gangsters. People say I came from a spaghetto. But I didn't come from a family of professional people. There were no actual lawyers and doctors in my family. Matter of fact, I didn't even know what my family did for a living, and I had to do a show and tell in grammar school. And I forgot that I had to do the show and tell, and I got up in front of the class, I had to talk about my family, but I had no idea what they did, so I had to start making up a story. Went to a Catholic grammar school, and the Catholic nun, Sister Kathleen, was from Ireland. She had a heavy brogue. She says, "Joseph, can you tell the class what your mom and dad do for a living?" I was shaking like a leaf. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what they did. I said, "I think they're in the iron and steel business." She said, "Oh, they're in the construction industry?" I said, "No, I don't think so. I see my mother ironing ladies' dresses, and my father steals anything he can get his hands on." So I was probably destined to be a civil service worker. In the 1970s, when I was a teenager, the exams were coming out for firefighter, police officer, and sanitation worker. And those are the 3 top civil service agencies that made the most money. So those are the agencies that I was going to strive to become a part of. And I really wanted to be a police officer because my uncle was a cop and his son was a detective. And all my friends wanted to be firefighters, and they had an extra application. They said, "Joe, take the test with us for firefighter. We'll go out for a couple of beers later." I said, "Give me the application." 70,000 young kids took that test. Only 3,000 passed, and I was in the top 1,000, and all my friends failed the test. I took the fire department job just to get them angry because they all wanted to be firemen. And the test was given on December 3rd, 1977. And the physical was so hard, 6 guys dropped dead taking the physical. That's how hard the physical was. And the physical was really hard, they say, and I don't know whether this is true or not, because it was the first time that women were being allowed to actually take the test for firefighter in New York City. But I did so well, and I took the job just to get my friends angry. I was going to get inducted and quit the next day. And if I ever and ever, when we had a reunion years down the road, I was going to say I was a fireman and you guys weren't. But anyway, I decided to give it a shot, and it's not something that I really intended on doing. When I graduated the training academy, of all 357 firehouses they could arbitrarily place me to begin my career, they chose this little firehouse across the street from the World Trade Center. It was a brand new firehouse, and I was a brand new fireman. And I was there in Engine Company 10, I was there for 15 years. And after 15 years, with no pun intended, I was ready to start climbing the promotional ladder. I wanted to become a lieutenant, maybe a captain, possibly a chief. And I passed a very, very difficult lieutenant's exam. It was like the bar exam. And I got promoted on September 5th, 1996. And as a new lieutenant, they took me out of my firehouse because that's what they do. They don't let you supervise your friends. They're going to try and turn you into a manager. So they put you in another part of New York City where they think you don't have any friends to start the next step of your career. And they think they're turning you into a manager. It never really works because I don't care what firehouse you work in, it's a different circus with the same clowns. But shortly after getting promoted, a couple of months later, on New Year's Eve of 1996 going to 1997, I was working at a very busy firehouse in Brooklyn, New York, where I was born and raised. And an alarm came in for the scene that you see on the screen. And we were the first engine company on the scene. A ladder company was already there, and firefighters started putting up the ladders to the roof. And one of the things we always do, we try to cut a roof open to let the flames, heat, smoke, and gases out. It makes it easier for the interior team like me that's going inside with hoses to extinguish the fire and search for the people. And cutting through the roof is not so easy. You gotta use very special equipment, and there's a lot of layers of tar on the roof. And it takes quite a long time, and it really knocks the heck out of you. But before they start cutting the roof open, some other firefighters will go over to a glass skylight, and there's a lot of buildings have these skylights on the roof over the interior staircase. And they smashed out the skylight. I was right underneath it. The glass came down, went right through my hand, almost took my thumb off of my hand. And after the fire was out, they rushed me to the hospital, and they stitched my thumb back together. And this was a near career-ending injury. And for at least a year, I was temporarily disabled. I couldn't work in a firehouse. I was restricted from firefighting duty, so they said I had to take a desk job working in headquarters while I was recuperating. I never worked in an office in my life. I didn't have no office skills, didn't know how to use a computer. But anyway, I had to take this desk job in headquarters, and they assigned me to the Office of Fire Safety Education. I didn't even know we had an Office of Fire Safety Education. I didn't know what they did, who they were. In essence, it was a whole group of firefighters that were recuperating from various injuries and illnesses. Because we couldn't be active in a firehouse, they would send us out to one of the 3,000 schools in New York City and go into the classrooms and talk to kids about both preventing fires and surviving fires. This is what we were doing. We're going out into the public and educating the public, educating kids with the hopes of reducing fires and fatalities. And I became part of a program I knew nothing about. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, you know, the moral of the story, sometimes life takes us down roads we didn't know were waiting for us. Sometimes life takes us down roads that changes us in so many different ways. I got involved in this program I knew nothing about, and ironically, I became the director of the whole program. And as the new director of the Fire Department's Public Education Program, I want to make it a very viable and a very, very respectable program, because all the people that were doing it before me, nobody ever hung around this office. It was a nilly-willy type of personnel. Even the management was nilly-willy. Nobody ever stood long enough to really build this program. There was never any continuity, and continuity is everything in life. There was no continuity in this program. For 50 years, people came and went for no rhyme or reason. And when I became the director, I promised I would make a minimum of a 2-year commitment to see if I can build this program where we could make a difference in reducing fires and fatalities. And I started thinking about the educational process as a whole, and I realized that kids like having fun when they learn. Kids are multi-sensory. I like having fun when I learn. And I thought that if we're going to be serious about really preventing and surviving fires, why don't we have a learning center where kids can go on a school trip? And I sold the idea to Mayor Giuliani. Mayor Giuliani loved the idea because he loved anything that made him look good. But he gave me a $3 million budget. And there's an old saying that goes like this here: be careful what you wish for, because you might get what you want. I really had no idea what I was doing. I sold this great grandiose idea about having a learning center. There were no other places in the world like it, so I had nothing to compare it to. And at the same time, I got a phone call from Jerry Spire, who owns Rockefeller Center. He's 10 times Donald Trump in money in real estate in New York City. He's a very close friend to the fire department. And when Jerry Spire found out what I wanted to do, he called me up and he says, I'd like for you to build it right here in Rockefeller Center next to Radio City Music Hall. I said, Jerry, before you go any further, we don't have that much money. We can't afford it there. He said, yes, you can. He says, I have a piece of property. I want you to come and look at it. It's yours for 10 years for $1. And you want to talk about pressure? Now, this has to be something that has to be really, really newsworthy. So now I'm really feeling the pressure, and I don't really know what I'm doing. So the ideas were limitless. They go on and on and on. What's this learning center going to be? It was going to be a Disney quality, Broadway type of show on fire safety. I took the 5 most common causes of fire, where people lose their lives every single year, decade after decade, and I brought those common causes of fire to life in a Disney quality venue, in a Broadway type of show, in a venue called the Fire Zone, right next door to Radio City Music Hall. I worked on that project for 2 straight years. I wasn't getting paid for the amount of time I put into this project, but it was my idea. I had the reins of this project. I had a lot to prove. My reputation was on the line. Jerry Spy had a lot of expectations, Mayor Giuliani had expectations, so I had to work my butt off. And it was difficult, and I would work tirelessly on this project, not really knowing what it would culminate into. We opened in October 2000. It was a learning center where kids can come in and try on firefighting clothing, see all the tools and equipment. The kids get on the fire engine, blow the horn, talk to the dispatcher, put on the sirens, pump water. And about a month and a half later, in November of 2000, we got a call. We're being nominated for the Theater Award at the Emmys, and we won the Theater Award for Venues of Themed Entertainment. I could never imagine in my wildest imagination that this would all culminate into this very prestigious award. We were up against Disney World, Six Flags, and all these science centers, and I won this very prestigious award. Well, now that the Learning Center is open, we win this prestigious Theater Award. I'm spending the next couple of months promoting my Learning Center. I want everybody to know about it. And then Mayor Giuliani gives me this very prestigious Administrative Excellence Award. And then I received a phone call in January of 2001. I was in my office in headquarters, a little after 9 o'clock in the morning. I just got to work, having a cup of coffee, and the phone rings about 4 minutes after 9 on January 4th, 2001. And the phone rings, ring, ring.